In this podcast, we're going to have a look at this concept of Keynesian equilibrium. And it's at this point here that we start putting a lot of smaller topics together to form a bigger picture of the economy. Now, when I look into the textbook tells me that Keynesian equilibrium occurs when the aggregate demand line cuts the 45-degree line. Okay, so this will take a little bit of breaking down till we can fully understand it. Here's our 45-degree line. Now notice at all these points on the 45-degree line that our income is equal to our aggregate expenditure. So here, if we have a look at our scale, at this point here, our income or total income or aggregate income is 100 million, and the corresponding point is also 100 million of aggregate expenditure. So anywhere along this 45-degree line, our income is equal to aggregate expenditure, which is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. Okay, so we're looking for where our aggregate demand line intersects this 45-degree line. Before we do that, let's unpack this concept of aggregate demand a little bit more. Aggregate demand, for our purposes, will consist of consumption plus investment. Okay. Now we can plot that on our graph here. So if I just grab my ruler out, I'm just going to sketch. It's going to sketch that. Looks good to me. I'm going to sketch a consumption line to start with. Here we go. The consumption line there. Consumption line. And the value of this consumption line, I can just pretty much tell you there, will be an autonomous expenditure of 200 million. Okay. 200 million plus a marginal propensity to consume. The slope of this line is going to be 0.5. Okay, Y, that's our induced expenditure there. So here's the slope of this consumption function. Let's also say in this scenario that the planned investment, and we know investment is autonomous, so the planned investment for this period is going to be 100 million. Okay. What we do now when we talk about aggregate demand is we're going to add both these two things together, and we can actually sketch our aggregate demand line. So given investment is autonomous, that's going to shift our consumption line up by 100 million, so from 2 to 3, and the slope of the line remains the same. The slope of the line remains the same. Okay, this point here, or this line, sorry, I should say, is our aggregate demand line. It's our consumption plus our investment. There we go. So where the aggregate demand line cuts the 45-degree line, we'll see that our income is equal to our aggregate expenditure, our leakages are equal to our injections. So it looks like it occurs at this point here. It looks like it's occurring at aggregate expenditure of 600 and therefore aggregate income or total income of 600. And we can label that point YE. There's our Keynesian equilibrium. Now, if you're ever unsure as to where exactly this aggregate demand line intersects the 45-degree line, if it looks like it doesn't cut clearly, you might need to use the equilibrium equation. Now, the equilibrium equation looks like this. Our equilibrium is equal to A plus I divided by 1 minus the MPC. Okay. Our autonomous expenditure, what you must spend to survive, plus our investment, which is also autonomous, divided by 1 minus the MPC. We know that to be our marginal propensity to save as well. Therefore, our autonomous expenditure, if you have a look back at our consumption function, was 200 million plus our investment of 100 million divided by 1 minus the MPC The MPC is 0.5, which gives us 300. Whoa, that's an interesting 300 divided by 0.5. Therefore, our equilibrium should be 300 divided by 0.5 should be 600. And that's what we've got here. So we've got that here, that's correct. This point here is in fact correct because we've worked it out algebraically as well using the equilibrium formula and have found that when this economy is at equilibrium, we have an income, a national income level of 600 million, and we have an aggregate expenditure which is also equal to 600 million. There are no injections or leakages. The economy is at equilibrium. So we can do this both graphically and mathematically to find Keynesian, Keynesian equilibrium. There we go.